Hi, so as you know, you should have a backup. Definitely, you should have a backup for your personal files, just in case your laptop gets stolen, or you accidentally delete stuff, or a crypto Trojan encrypts all your files, or your hard disk breaks. Your hard disk will break at some point, you should have a backup. But sometimes there is a situation where it's better to have something else, something that's a bit stronger than just having a backup. It's not quite as comfortable as having like a backup strategy which automatically each and every day backs up all your files automatically, but something that with relatively little effort lets you restore not only your personal files but also the applications you installed, the system settings you had, and even the operating system you're running, and even several operating systems if you're running more than one on one machine. And as you can see, I'm on an Ubuntu system here. This does not matter. It does not matter which operating system you use. You can use any Linux distro, you can use Windows, Mac, BSD, whatever. It just matters that you have an Ubuntu Live Medium, like an Ubuntu Live USB stick, or thumb drive as it's called properly, sorry messed this up, or a DVD, or whatever live medium you have. So just insert this live medium into your computer and reboot. And I'm going to do this in a virtual environment, so the things you see on my screen right now may not match entirely with the stuff you see, but after a few seconds of booting up, you should see a screen which says try Ubuntu or install Ubuntu. And I'm going to see this in just a few seconds. So here it is. Just click try Ubuntu, don't click install Ubuntu, we're just going to use it as a tool. So the first thing you should do if you don't use American keyboard layout is to change your keyboard layout. This is super easy, just click this button in the top left, enter the first few characters of text input, and then click this one right here, which says text input, click the plus symbol, enter whatever keyboard you're using. If you don't want to enter it, you can just search it. It's ordered by country names and you can find whatever weird keyboard layout you're using. Just enter it, or yeah. And then remove the American keyboard layout, close the window, and you're all set. You're now using your keyboard layout that you're used to. So the first thing you should do after that is to attach a storage medium, like for example an external hard drive. Now if you just attached it while you're already in the live session, it will have popped up automatically, but if you attached it already prior to booting up, you should click this symbol here. This is Files application, is the standard file browser of Ubuntu, and you can find your hard disks in the left here. And now you should probably create a folder. So let's just say I'm calling this backup, or I'm calling this more appropriately backups in plural. I'm going to create a folder titled 2017-06-30 full system backup of laptop, for example, or whatever you want to call it. The next thing you should do is to open up Gparted, and you'll see why this is important in a minute. This is a partitioning tool. It just shows you very clearly which partitions you have. And what you need to make sure is that there are no keys here. Keys mean the partition is in use right now, and you don't want that. So as you can see, I have a Linux swap partition right here, which my system already uses. Even though I'm a live system, it sees there's a swap partition. I can use this to expand my RAM, but I don't want this because you want to back up this entire hard drive, and you need to make sure that during the process of backing it up, the entire hard drive is not touched. So it is reading is fine, but you cannot modify it. If you modify your hard disk even just by having it mounted, even just by, like, if you close this and mount your disk and just browse around or just have it mounted, that's no good. It will at some point probably write some information, and if that happens, your entire backup can be destroyed. So make sure that there are no keys. Now, if this is a data partition and you see a key, just right-click it and press unmount. And what will happen after a few seconds is that it is unmounted. If it is a swap partition, this won't happen if you use a Mac or a Windows. But if you use actually, I'm not sure whether it can happen with Mac. Won't happen with Windows. Just right-click it and press swap off, so that there are no keys left, so no partition is in use. Now, after you did this, just remember what it says up here. You should make sure that whatever you just cleared up here with the keys is the hard drive you're using. So in my case, this is DEV-SDA, which it's probably in your case too, because this just means it's the first hard drive the system saw when it booted up. Okay, so now the next thing you should do is to open up a terminal. Just click this one up here and enter the first few letters of terminal, open it up, just like that, and now enter this command. ddif =/dev-sda. Now what this says is to copy in a specific way your hard drive. And you want to do this in relatively big blocks so it's faster. And the block size is denoted by this, BS for block size equals, and now we enter just some number, for example 8, and then a capital M, which means it's maybe bytes. So it's roughly 1,000,000 bytes at a time. And then you're going to enter this pipe character, which is the character you'll find on most keyboards, right next to the left shift key. Just find this character, and then you write gzip minus a number. I'm going to explain this in a minute. And then you're going to write this character, this tag close character, and then you're going to look for your backup location. Now, in this case, it's this folder right here, and you're going to drag and drop this into the terminal, and then after that write something like sda.gz, which is for gzip. And I'm going to explain this in detail in a minute. So what this does is DD is for disk dump. Now this just copies blocks of your disk somewhere else. You don't need to understand the exact details of how this works internally. This is just copying disk blocks, and it's copying it from this device, which is SDA. This is your hard disk. If this here is something else, just use whatever else this is. Then the next thing, this 8M, just make sure it doesn't really matter that much which number. You can use a 1, a 4, a 8. Just make sure it's a power of 2, so 16, 32, 64. It's all fine. Just use any of these numbers and a capital M behind it. Then the next one, this -9, you might want to change this down because it's the compression factor. This means your backup gets compressed so it doesn't use up, in this case, the entire 100 GB of the hard drive. And your hard drive is probably even way bigger than that, and you don't want to really use up that much space on your external hard drive, so you should compress it. Now you can just don't compress it, or compress it very weakly, or choose an intermediate option, or depending on how strong your CPU is, go all the way up to 9. Now if you're on like a super tiny netbook or something, you should probably just leave it at a smaller number, but if you're on a desktop PC, you can choose 9. it will just take longer if your CPU is very weak and you choose a high number. Then the next thing after that is where it's written. Now this is this should end in gzip, so you know that it's a GNU zip, which is just what this gzip function does. It creates a gzip file. You should call this SDA to make sure that you don't actually only backed up a single partition, but that you know you backed up the entire disk. Now you can of course just write like here SDA1, which would just back up this partition, or you can write SDA5, which would just back up this partition. But you should leave it at this. Now, backing up all of your partitions is not the same as backing up your entire hard drive, because first of all, you may have unpartitioned stuff, but that's the stuff we don't really care about. The important difference is that there is certain information stored before all of your partitions. So this is the hard drive, this are the different partitions, and just before that there is a tiny bit of information, and this information is rather important. It stores not only your bootloader, or a part of your bootloader to be more precise, but also it stores your partitioning information. So right before the partitions start, there is actually the information of where your partitions are and what their attributes are, roughly speaking. And you should back this up too if you want to just go back in time, basically. So make sure this doesn't end in a number unless you specifically want it, and then make sure this doesn't end in a number either. And then you just hit enter, and what you will see is that the permission is denied. Now I specifically did this so you don't accidentally mess something up, because this is a safe operation currently. You cannot accidentally overwrite your hard drive. For example, if you had written OF here, bad things could have happened. Make sure this command is exactly like it's supposed to be, and then after you made this sure, and after you double check that there are no keys here, write sudo in front of it. And then you may hit enter, and this is going to take some time. Now this is going to take as long as it takes to read your entire hard drive, or as long as it takes to do this compression in the end. Now as you can see, I have chosen a high compression and have gotten a fairly low rate. If I had chosen a smaller number, this rate would have been dramatically higher in this case, but I'm still in a virtual environment, so it's not quite as high as it would probably be for you. And by the way, I just canceled these commands, so you can see a result. The result would usually only pop up on your system after hours, because it takes a long time to copy all of your data. But then in the end, you should see an equal number of records in, as you can see records out. Now as you can see, because I cancelled this, there's one record in more than record out. There are only 20 records out, so you need to make sure that these numbers are the same. If they are, things are good. And then you successfully backed up your system. Now you will, by the way, you will see no output of these commands. They will just look like this, and it will run for a pretty long time. But as this is backing up, there is something else you should do to make sure you can restore your backup, or you can find someone who knows how to restore it if you just want to restore a single partition. Now this just makes it a lot easier. It's not a necessity, but it is something I highly recommend. Press the symbol up here, open up a new terminal by clicking this, and write in fdisk -l/dev/sda, or whatever your device is. Then go to the beginning of it, enter sudo, and hit enter. And then just take everything, including the $sign and the command, and till the end of it, till the next command line starts, select it, right-click it, press copy, and in your backup folder create a new file by right-clicking, choosing new document, an empty document, which you're going to call fdiskl, and create it, open it by clicking enter or double-clicking it, and press Ctrl V for entering, then press Ctrl S for saving it. Now, this information tells you how your partitions are set up. This can be pretty relevant information. Technically it's stored in this file, but this just makes it a lot more accessible. Okay, so now let's presume you already backed this up. We can close this here, and let's say you're in the situation where you want to restore your backup. Just boot up another live session, do your keyboard settings, and then open up a terminal. Type in CAT and a space, then go to your backup location in the file browser. And in this case, it's this one. And just drag and drop this tab up here into the terminal, and then write whatever your file name is. In this case, it's sda.gzip here. So you need this gzip file. You don't need this file unless you want to restore a single partition. So make sure this is the correct path, and then you're going to need this pipe character again. Again, this is the symbol which on most keyboard layouts is next to the shift key. And then you write g unzip and a -d and a -c. Make sure those spaces are correct. Another pipe character, and then ddbs equals something, some power of 2, and a capital M. Now this does not have to be the same power of 2 that you entered before. You can choose anything else. You can just choose a 1 if you chose an 8 before. Doesn't really matter. And then write OF equals /dev/SDA. Again, make sure SDA actually is the correct device. SDA by now may be your external hard drive. So, next thing you should do is to open up Gparted, and based on the things you see here, like how big your file systems are, possibly those don't have names. If they have labels, if they have names, you would be able to see this. Actually, I can just make a label right here so you can see something. And if we create a label, we have it here. So in case you have a Windows system, it may say something like System C or whatever they call it by now. And you will be able to see this label right here and will be able to identify that this is actually your internal hard drive, because this command is going to overwrite whatever SDA is. So any data that's currently there will be lost afterwards. So make sure this is 100% correct, then open up another terminal. Don't open up Sudoku, open up another terminal, and then enter sudo su and hit enter. Now, whatever you do in here is super dangerous, so make sure you copy the entire thing correctly. Mark everything, then right-click it, copy it, and put it into this terminal, the one that starts with root. And make sure this is entirely correct, and then after that hit enter. Now this is probably going to take about as long as it took to back the entire hard disk up. Now, because I canceled the command fairly quickly, so I don't have to sit here for several hours to make this video, it finished fairly quickly. You should not see this line gzip standard in unexpected end of file, because it would mean that you cancelled your backup command too. This should not be the case. Again, make sure records in and records out say exactly the same number and ignore the rest. And after this command finished, you will see this output. Again, you will not see anything as it is executing. You will see this output after it finished. Make sure everything checks out. Then just press Ctrl D again to close the terminal and close this terminal too, and you're all set, and your system will be just as it was before. So now you can just shut down your PC by pressing this button in the upper right corner, choosing shutdown again, and then it will say please remove the installation medium, then press enter. So you remove your installation medium, like you pull out your thumb drive or you take out your DVD, hit enter, and your computer will be shut down, and when you boot it up again the next time, it will be exactly the same as it was before you backed it up. Thanks for watching. Okay.